They didn't count calories, they didn't track steps, and they never talked about burn. Yet ancient Roman soldiers, farmers, and citizens carried strong midsections and startling metabolic health. At a time when food was scarce, movement was constant, and stress was woven into daily life. The shocking truth is this: some of the fastest ways humans ever reduced dangerous belly fat happened long before modern fitness existed. Imagine standing at dawn on a Roman road, stones still cold beneath your sandals. The city is waking. Bakers lift wooden shutters. Soldiers march out, armor clinking softly, not to train, but simply to live their day. This world had no gyms, no protein bars, no diet books. And yet visceral fat, the deep, dangerous fat wrapped around organs, the kind modern science links to heart disease and diabetes, was rare. Not because Romans were trying to be lean, but because their entire way of life quietly kept their bodies balanced. Modern science now confirms what history accidentally preserved. Visceral fat responds less to obsession and more to rhythm, to patterns of movement, eating, rest, and purpose repeated day after day. The Romans didn't chase fat loss. They lived in a way that made excess fat unnecessary. Today, visceral fat is one of the most dangerous health risks humans face. It's not the fat you pinch, it's the fat you don't see. Studies show it releases inflammatory chemicals, disrupts hormones, and raises the risk of heart disease, insulin resistance, and early aging. And the cruel irony is that many people who look fine still carry dangerous levels of it. This is why quick fixes fail. You can starve subcutaneous fat and still keep visceral fat alive and active. The Roman approach wasn't fast in the modern sense. It was fast in a deeper way because it worked at the root. The first hidden truth lies in how Romans moved, not exercised, moved. Their bodies were rarely still for long. Walking was not a workout. It was transportation. Markets, baths, forums, farms, and training grounds were reached on foot. Roman roads stretched thousands of miles, and they were walked daily. Modern research shows that low-intensity, frequent movement is one of the most powerful reducers of visceral fat, often outperforming short bursts of intense exercise. When you walk regularly, insulin sensitivity improves. Fat cells become more willing to release stored energy. Stress hormones decline. Romans didn't spike cortisol with constant extremes. Their movement was steady, functional, and woven into life. Carrying water, lifting tools, marching with weight, climbing hills. These actions quietly trained the core and organs to work together. Today, scientists call this non-exercise activity thermogenesis. The Romans simply called it living. Then there was food. Roman meals were simple, repetitive, and seasonal. Bread made from whole grains, olives pressed into oil, beans, lentils, vegetables, figs. Meat was occasional, not constant. Sugar was rare. Ultra-processed food didn't exist. What's fascinating is how closely this mirrors modern research on visceral fat reduction. Diets high in fiber, healthy fats, and unrefined carbohydrates consistently reduce abdominal fat even without calorie counting. Fiber slows digestion, feeds gut bacteria, and reduces inflammation. Three key factors in shrinking visceral fat. Olive oil improves insulin response. Legumes stabilize blood sugar. The Romans weren't eating clean. They were eating food that didn't confuse their biology. There's a Roman saying, panis et labor, bread and work. Food was fuel, not entertainment. Meals were eaten deliberately, often socially without distraction. No screens, no rushing. Studies now show that mindful eating lowers cortisol and improves hormonal signaling tied to fat storage. Visceral fat, in particular, is sensitive to stress. Eat while anxious, rushed, or distracted, and the body stores more. Which leads to another Roman secret modern life forgot. Rest wasn't laziness, it was strategic. The Roman day followed light. They rose with the sun and slowed after dusk. Oil lamps existed, but darkness still ruled the night. Sleep aligned with circadian rhythms, which modern science shows directly affects visceral fat accumulation. Disrupted sleep increases insulin resistance and raises hunger hormones. Even 1 week of poor sleep can measurably increase abdominal fat storage. Romans also bathed, not just to clean, but to transition. The baths were warm, social, calming. Heat exposure relaxes muscles, improves circulation, and lowers stress hormones. Today, sauna studies show reductions in inflammation and improved metabolic health. The Romans stumbled into this advantage by culture alone, but perhaps the most powerful lesson wasn't physical at all. Romans lived with purpose embedded in identity: soldier, farmer, artisan, builder. Your role mattered. You belonged to something larger than yourself. Chronic stress, especially the modern kind driven by isolation, uncertainty, and constant comparison, is one of the strongest predictors of visceral fat. Cortisol tells the body to store energy deep around the organs. Purpose quiets that signal. A Roman citizen might face hardship, but they rarely faced meaninglessness. Their days were structured, predictable, demanding, yes, but coherent. Modern psychology now shows that people with strong daily purpose have lower inflammation and better metabolic markers regardless of body size. This is where the mystery deepens. The Romans didn't optimize for longevity, yet their lifestyle protected them from many modern metabolic diseases. The lesson is not to copy their world, but to understand its principles. Visceral fat responds to signals of safety. When the body feels chronically threatened by stress, chaos, deprivation, it hoards. When life feels rhythmic, purposeful, and physically engaged, the body releases. The Roman way wasn't about forcing fat loss. It was about removing the reasons fat needed to exist. As centuries passed, empires fell, and technology advanced, humans gained comfort but lost rhythm. Movement became optional. Food became engineered. Light conquered night. Stress became constant but invisible, and visceral fat quietly moved in. Modern medicine now spends billions trying to undo what ancient daily habits prevented for free, and yet the path back doesn't require going backward in time. It requires remembering what the body evolved to expect. The Romans remind us that health is not a program, it is a pattern, and patterns, once understood, can be rebuilt. If the Roman world teaches us anything, it's that the body doesn't need intensity, it needs consistency. Visceral fat, especially, is stubborn, not because it's strong, but because it's protective. It wraps the organs like armor when the body senses instability. Remove the instability, and the armor loosens. One of the most overlooked Roman habits was eating earlier in the day. Large meals were often consumed before evening, with lighter food later. Modern research now shows that aligning eating with daylight improves insulin sensitivity and reduces visceral fat accumulation. This isn't about restriction, it's about timing that matches biology. When food arrives during active hours, the body uses it. When it arrives late, the body stores it. Romans also fasted accidentally, not through rules but through scarcity and structure. There were natural gaps between meals, no constant snacking. This allowed insulin levels to fall, giving the body access to stored energy. Today, scientists call this metabolic flexibility, the ability to switch between fuel sources. Visceral fat shrinks when the body relearns this skill, but the Romans never chased hunger. Extreme deprivation would have been dangerous. Instead, they trusted appetite shaped by labor and routine. Modern extremes often backfire, raising stress hormones and increasing deep fat storage. The Roman lesson is subtle. Eat enough, move often, rest deeply. Social connection mattered too. Meals were shared, baths were communal, work was collective. Loneliness is now recognized as a metabolic risk factor. Social isolation raises inflammation and cortisol. Romans didn't optimize social health. It was unavoidable. The body responded accordingly. Even posture played a role. Roman training emphasized standing tall, breathing deeply, carrying loads evenly. Modern sedentary life compresses the abdomen, restricts breathing, and keeps the nervous system in a low-grade stress response. Deep, slow breathing, something Romans did naturally through physical labor, activates the parasympathetic nervous system, signaling safety. Visceral fat responds to that signal. What emerges is a powerful realization. Visceral fat is less about willpower and more about environment. Change the environment and behavior follows. Change behavior and biology responds. You don't need to live like a Roman soldier, but you can borrow their principles. Walk daily as transportation, not punishment. Eat food that looks like food. Sleep in darkness. Create natural breaks between meals. Share meals with people. Move with purpose. Reduce artificial stressors. Build days with rhythm. The speed comes from alignment, not force. Modern studies consistently show that when people adopt these patterns, visceral fat reduces even when the scale barely moves. This is why some people lose inches without dramatic weight loss. The dangerous fat retreats first when the body feels safe. And safety is the key word. The Romans lived close to the edge of nature. Weather, seasons, labor, all reminded the body it was part of a larger system. Today, many bodies live in artificial conditions that signal constant emergency. Screens, noise, sugar, deadlines, isolation. The body responds logically by storing. To lose visceral fat fast, in the deepest sense, is to convince your body that it no longer needs to prepare for disaster. That's the hidden Roman wisdom. At the end of the day, this is not a story about fat. It's a story about how humans are meant to live. The Romans didn't chase longevity, yet their habits supported it. They didn't seek optimization, yet they achieved balance. They didn't fear their bodies, so their bodies didn't cling to excess. We modern humans often try to shrink ourselves to fit life. The Romans shaped life to fit the human body. And maybe that's the final lesson. Health is not about living longer at any cost. It's about living better while you're here. About waking with energy, moving without pain, eating without fear, resting without guilt, belonging without anxiety. Visceral fat fades when life feels whole. Not because you fought your body, but because you finally listened to it.